Okay, so we're asking dumb SEO questions. Each week we answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us today we have David Rozam. David is a copywriter with 30-odd years experience, 10 of those in SEO copywriting. He hails from the UK. Girish Kapoor is proud to call himself an SEO. He is from Chandigarh in India. And Kartik, I have to apologise. I know that you're from India, but I don't know what part. Kartik is also an SEO. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net in the USA. He's also a Google top contributor on the AdSense and the Google Plus Help community. And Micah Fisher-Kirshner. Did I say US for Masataki? Did I? I apologise. No, I should have said London, UK. It's not going to be a good night, is it? And Micah Fisher-Kirshner is SEO or senior SEO manager for Zazzle.com in the USA. Micah gets out of bed at 5 a.m. To attend here. I think he deserves a medal. And Zazzle are proud purveyors of 32 million products and counting. You'd think they have learned how to do it by now. All right, our first question tonight is from Gabrielle Partenay. Gabrielle asks, do blog.gov and .edu backlinks in comments add some SEO value, or is it a waste of time?
Okay. Couple of things to go with this. So, all right. So, does a blog, does getting a link in the commentary section on a blog that's hosted on a government or EU site have SEO value? Generally, from a pure SEO standpoint, most of the time you'll likely find that it will not be a value. Probably a waste of time if you're looking at it from a pure link building standpoint. Most blogs these days, generally the comment sections will include what's called a no-follow, and then those will generally prevent kind of the value of those links going over to any site. However, that function doesn't have to be related just to a gov or edu link. That's just on the whole everywhere. Now, that's if you're looking at it from a pure link value standpoint. There's potentially other values that you might want to consider with the comments, but from a straight pure link building standpoint, generally that's not to be of direct SEO value. And then, yeah, it really wouldn't matter in that case for a gov or edu link, the blog. Even if it's a commercial site that has the blog there too, even then it's the same kind of situation. The value is not in the actual link building part of the link itself, but potentially from other things that people see it. You might get traffic or generating a relationship and conversations through that.
Excellent. Thank you, Micah. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Our next question is from Eric Bryant. He said, my site is experiencing a decreasing trend in organic in page views, but an increasing trend in organic search traffic for the same period. What could this mean?
Oh, sorry. No. carry on.
So it basically just confirmed. It seems like I'm getting more visits, but less page views, or at least trending downwards for that. So I guess the one way I would look at this is the traffic that you're getting potentially could be lesser quality, one possibility, in that the type of page that it's going to is not very good, or the type of person who's coming into the site now is not very good. That stated, that doesn't have to be the case. It could be something where you're getting, you might have redesigned the site a little bit. So, and maybe the funnel of which used to be a bit more confusing is less confusing now. People are more directly finding what they need, whether it's a lead, information, conversion, however. So the question kind of to ask, depending on what's your end goal, assuming it's not like page views themselves for ad traffic, are you getting more leads as part of it? Is the leads increasing with the trend in organic search traffic? That's what you want to really be kind of focusing on, is that final part at the end of the conversion funnel. Because if the conversion part is increasing with the organic search visits, then the page view part's not as big of a concern. So that's kind of what you probably want to kind of look at to determine whether or not there's an issue there. But without kind of knowing the full starting point, the traffic, the rankings, to like what kind of things you're ranking on, toward all the way to the end of how you're converting, it's difficult to really say whether or not there's what kind of issue or trend or theme is coming out by having visits going up while page views going down.
Sorry, my microphone was muted. Okay. Anybody else? I have to say, I'd get a fright if suddenly my traffic went up and impressions went down. That would indicate that something was going, well, in my case, something would be going wrong. Brad Sachs asks, what would you say is your favorite CMS to do SEO work on? Would you choose WordPress, Magento, or Shopify, and what are the major differences? Is Shopify a platform? I mean, Magento, isn't Magento built on Drupal?
Well, I mean, you can use them as CMS platforms. So I have a general preference of kind of internally built that you have more flexibility in functions of what you can do with it than presets. But I haven't actually worked on or used Magento or what was the second one? Or Shopify. I haven't actually used the latter two as kind of CMSs, so I can't really give a valuable answer between one or three. But I generally like just the internal ones because you have more flexibility and control. It just means on the downside you have to have the resources to modify them as you need.
Right.
I have a view on this from a content point of view. If I find that a lot of clients have already had some exposure to WordPress, and from the point of view of creating content for SEO purposes, I find that clients tend to use WordPress, whereas if they have, I know it's not on the list, if it's something like Drupal or what's the other big one that keeps popping up these days with clients? Anyway, if they Joomla, that's the one. Joomla, thank you. Joomla 1.7, one of my clients is on, and it's horrible. And consequently, they don't create any content. So, if you say that content is good for SEO, WordPress is damn good for getting clients to actually create some. End of story.
Cool, David. Thank you very much for that. Anybody else? Okay, so now we have a question from Charu Rostogi. What could be the reasons of a decrease in keyword ranking for a website? If the search trend of a keyword is down at any given point of time, this will affect the website's business. Well, yes, I guess you've answered your own question, Charu. But okay. The question you're really asking is what could be the reason for your keywords dropping?
Many
because I fucked up the read, isn't it?
There are many potential reasons all across the board. I mean, could just be natural fluctuations, Google making a change, you making changes that were negative. It could be your competitors making changes. There's a whole variety of stuff, and so when it comes to trying to diagnose those problems, generally, you want to consider having a list together to go through every time something, if it's worthwhile, major happens. So it's looking at when was the last changes that you've made. Has Google made any changes? Is this a seasonal thing that generally happens? Because parts of the year, Google is going to show certain kinds of sites over others. And then, of course, if neither of those kind of situations have occurred, is it things that are like your competitor having made changes that have really helped on their end? So those are at least kind of some of the areas you should consider in determining the reasons for why your keywords have gone down on the search engines.
Yep. Anybody else? We all should have an answer for this one. I'll take that as a no. Tony McCreath asks an interesting question. Should a privacy policy and terms and conditions be no-indexed? These may be used as quality signals, so wouldn't no-indexing them remove that signal?
No indexing them only basically says don't put it into the search engine index. It doesn't necessarily mean they can't. Well, yeah, that would take out the quality of it, but because they can still crawl it. I don't like. I mean, I'd rather understand why somebody would want to no index it. I think leaving it there is fine. I mean, I think as a quality signal, I think they're looking to see if you have one potentially. Let's say it's for specific algorithms to determine is website valid or not. And if you don't even have a privacy policy or terms and conditions, that's potentially a signal. Well, if you're still allowing to crawl it, then at least that should still provide a signal to show that the site has it. So I don't think that part of it would be an impact. Yeah, I would probably still leave it, but I don't see it being a huge area of concern, but I would probably still, just for safety measures, at least have it. Doesn't have to be two separate pages, at least right away. it kind of just depends on the site structure of why you would want to really no index something. Like 2 links probably is not going to make a huge difference. You're just no indexing, but even then, I don't think 2 links is going to really be of harm to the site. So I wouldn't, if you're worried about that, probably just best to just leave them indexable. And the flip side of it is why you don't always have to make terms and conditions or privacy policies so awful. I mean, I've actually seen articles mentioning some interesting ones and getting links from that. So get creative and make them actually of value.
Yep. Somebody else was speaking before.
I wasn't speaking before, but I guess the question I would ask is, why wouldn't you want to have them indexed? They're on your site. Google apparently likes you having those kind of stuff, those kind of pages, that kind of content on your site. If you're worrying about them coming up on search, natural search, it's very, very unlikely you'll ever have them ranking on the first page. Most terms and conditions are variations on other terms and conditions, shall we say? Okay, maybe you might. I guess the conclusion from that is whether you get hammered for duplicate content, but Christ, as Mika said, it's only 2 pages, so I don't think it's going to be a major issue. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, we're ripping through these tonight, and it's a quiet week for questions this week for some reason or other. Kieran Varma asks a question titled "Spamming Google with Clickthrough." Okay, so I'm going to try and make some sense. He said, and also I found that Google SEO is not fine for making links, you see. In one place, my friends are spamming, opening the same link to make it the top post. So how can Google stop it? This one got past me. I didn't see this one, but I would have asked for clarification. Sorry about that, guys. What do you think?
I have no idea what this person is even saying.
Okay. Opening the same
about PPC, but your guess is as good as mine.
I wonder if he means the spamming the autocomplete, because that's fairly easy to do. No, okay. We'll have to. Kieran Varma, I'm sorry that we haven't given you a comprehensive answer to your question, but if you would ask it again with more details for next week, we'll be more than happy to address it. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, I couldn't get to the mute button in time. So sorry. Hello, Alistair Lettermore.
Howdy.
How you going, mate?
Bad, thanks.
Excellent. All right, so our next question is from David Mason. He said, did I miss an announcement about a recent Google update? I dropped from 4 to 10 on the first page of Google's search engine results page. I was wondering what was going on. I've changed nothing to cause this drop. And only one new site is listed on the search engine result page.
So there was an update recently, but I don't think, well, at least been reported it's being an update. in a few different places. There was a lot of fluctuation in the search results, and it was reported on Search Engine Land, Search Engine Roundtable, and apparently Barry Schwartz said there was a fair bit of chatter in the forums about it as well.
The 8, 9, 8, 10, basically.
Yeah, and it's Algoroo from doesn SEO. Also showed a huge amount of fluctuation last week. So it started on the 7th of August and ended on the 15th. So it's possible that's what was the cause. No one, I don't think there's been any posts yet trying to understand what that was that happened specifically.
So I wonder if it was all about fluctuations in the meters, which watch ranking changes, like Algoroo, which is doesn SEOs, and the Moz weather forecast, but nothing actually happened. I wonder if this was the search quality team messing with SEO's heads.
Well, I mean, it's not entirely impossible to have it be just the usual kind of Panda rollout type, or monthly kind of review. So.
And I noticed Dan Patrick commented that it was the most activity he'd seen in a while, or words to that effect.
Yeah. It was not anything they would confirm or deny from kind of that standpoint of the result change there.
Well, between the end of May, roughly, all the way up until the 15th or 14th, the 6th of August, Algoroo was showing nice, stable, fluctuations across the course of that time, but quite stable in terms of the amount of fluctuations. And then on the 7th of August, it went off the charts, and it lasted until the 15th. So, but that same turbulence that Algoroo showed in Google.com.au wasn't reflected inside Mozcast. I mean, granted that they are tracking different search terms, but you would think that if it was effectively a site, a massive algorithm update where both of the tools are tracking thousands of keywords, it's going to be reflected in both tools, but it wasn't reflected in Mozcast at all. So
yeah,
maybe
it would be interesting.
Australia.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say it would be interesting to see kind of. I don't know if they have it. I just haven't seen it, but be interesting to compare their result set. Kind of what focus of keywords they have. Is one of them more excuse me, is one of them more commercial focused or longer tail, or is there a difference between the two sets that might account for that difference?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so have we covered this, guys?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Our next question is from Julius Park. Will adding no-follow, no-index landing pages that have duplicate content to the index pages hurt the domain's ranking?
No. So you can basically put any content you want on your website. If it's not indexed, Google doesn't care. So go your hardest. Asataki says, why not canonicalize them? That's a really good point.
I like that better. Just merge them together.
So in that scenario, Julius would basically set the canonical tag from the landing pages that are duplicate content, and set the rel canonical to be the indexed version of that content, basically. At which point, the duplicate versions will get dropped from the index and merged with the proper copy that he would prefer to have indexed anyway. It's a good solution. So long as the content is substantially similar, that should be fine.
Yep, and I should repeat Kartik Bedai's comment in the chat there. Adding no follow, no index to landing pages or any other pages will make pages unindexable, so it won't hurt the domain with duplicate or original content in any way. Canonicals also would be helpful if they are not used, or if no index tags are not used, which is so we've got 4 people that agree on the answer for Julius Park. Yeah, I think that's got to be unanimous. Valentina Huff asks, she said, I'm trying to do a change of address in Google Webmaster Tools, but it doesn't seem to work. I'm doing it specifically for sites that I've specified a preferred domain. When I try to do change of address for www.example.com, its preferred domain, example.com, is not in the select a verified site drop-down. Any ideas as to why or what I should do?
So I think to have that happen, you would need to go and verify the root domain as well in Webmaster Tools. And then set the preferred version. So that the problem here essentially is that as far as Google's concerned, www.example.com and example.com are separate websites, and they could be serving different content. You could imagine, for instance, it could be cats.store.com, dogs.store.com, and www.store.com, and then the root domain, for instance. They could theoretically all be owned by different people. So in this instance, Google doesn't allow you to make certain changes when you verify any subdomain, basically. So www is the subdomain. So in that instance, I think you probably need to verify the root domain as well, and then make the changes accordingly.
Jim, you're muted.
Yeah. I was making such an intelligent speech too. I've forgotten it already.
I'll never know.
You'll never know. Anyway, all right. Look, I think that covers it for Valentina. Must add both the dub and the non-dub. All right. Here's a long one from Bob Colopy. He said, hello, I want to know if my site is getting marked down as the location for the original content that I am creating for it. I am making new video content for my WordPress website. I post the video to my YouTube account first and then embed that video to a new post I create on my site. Also, I add a link to my website's homepage in the description of the video. The YouTube account I am using is not linked to the company Google Plus page or company Gmails. It is independent of them, so this may be hurting me in terms of classifying my site as the original source. I then share my video through many sites and forums that are applicable to my industry in an attempt to give my video more authority. Is this the best way to share videos and help my website's SEO? Is my site being tagged as the original source of the content? I've tried using meta tags like the original content one, but I cannot figure out how to put it into my site, and the plugins aren't really helping. Also, I keep reading that these are useless, even though it may be applicable for this situation. All advice gratefully received. See, this is really this is what we do on Dumb SEO Questions. We post them on YouTube, and then we embed them on the dumbseoquestions.com site. So I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say.
I'm not really sure which way to go on this one. I think in an ideal world, the YouTube account would be linked to the profile, the brand page profile that's attached to your website in an ideal world. In the case of Dumb SEO Questions, as Jim mentioned, he didn't mention this specifically, but the YouTube account that Jim hosts the DSQ question videos into is not the DSQ YouTube Google Plus profile. It's just a different one that Jim happens to have. Might be his personal account, for instance, or whatever. I don't think in that instance it's causing us or the DSQ site any problems. One thing you could do to help this out might be to submit an XML video sitemap. Just help tell Google that these videos are for your site and they are attached to a given web page with, certain video thumbnails and descriptions and so forth, to help be a little bit more explicit about that. But I don't think that you should have to, as in mandatory, have the all of the accounts being shared effectively for this to work properly. It would be ideal, but I don't think it's a requirement.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, for the most part, it's difficult to determine original content of a video. It's not like kind of a page. And I've come across these kinds of questions in slightly different forms quite often. Should you be, using YouTube's video and embedding system, or do you have your own? And there are plus and minuses on both ends for that kind of purpose. Have it on YouTube means and through kind of YouTube's proprietary ability, you run a higher risk. Of course, the video from YouTube is what's going to show up over kind of your own site or page or own, if you have your own proprietary kind of video system, then that's, you're basically going up against YouTube's kind of domain authority. So that's kind of that's part of that, because if you think about it, people are mostly going to be sharing then potentially that video, which means what you have on YouTube, which means those links potentially then aren't going to the YouTube page. So you have to kind of think about, are you going to be adding enough additional content outside of that on your main site? It could still be on YouTube, but if people are willing to share the page itself versus only just the video, then that will help at least to indicate from the link side at least which page is of more value to people and thus to Google. I think that it's very difficult to just say, well, because video X was uploaded first, that's the original content one, and connected. I don't think it's still not going to provide the easy way for Google to really tell. For the most part, it makes it very difficult, and even more so because it's video than like enough content to say otherwise. Yep, and Jim's talking to himself again. Which I don't think he's realized yet. Jim, you're muted.
Oh, dear me. Anybody else with some input on YouTube? All right. Next, we have a question for Marilyn Lesniak, or from Marilyn Lesniak. What's the best way to delete pages without causing 404 errors? Just wondering, about 1/5 of my images are unattached and not currently in use due to retired and outdated posts and updated photos, and indexes that have been updated. Does this affect SEO in any way? I realise that they take up space. What's the best way to delete them without causing 404 errors? Thanks.
Okay, so I think on its own, so just to start off, 404 errors are not necessarily, that's not a problem in terms of generally affecting you from a ranking standpoint. Now, there are always qualifications to things like that. So if you suddenly are getting a huge increase in the 404, is not something you want to take a look at. But in the case of what you have here, where these images are no longer of value to show to people because they're not going to be used in the posts that you have, the things to think about is, were those images getting traffic, and were they useful and valuable traffic? If so, then yeah, that could affect your SEO, because you may not rank for the same image search keywords that you were previously. So that's something to consider. If these are images that weren't really getting any traffic, and you want to kind of delete them without causing 404 errors, you can always just kind of redirect that up so you don't have them, but it's not necessarily a bad thing to have those errors. I don't like having 404s, particularly if it starts to get too many and leaving them that way, because then it potentially hides issues that can crop up later on, especially if there's a lot in there. So that's probably just the way I would kind of look at it. Is you might want to just delete them and then redirect the pages to somewhere else. And then, Google will kind of understand that those images are not there anymore, and not actually start causing all those 404 errors. But it's not something I would normally be hugely concerned about. 404s are fine. You just basically tell Google, hey, they're not there anymore, and stop kind of evaluating it. So.
Yep. And the other thing is that these are mainly images. They're of little consequence to Googlebot, aren't they? These images, particularly if they're images that have been removed from any page, it's unlikely that they'll cause any issue at all.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're ripping through these tonight. Okay. Sorry, I've lost my place. Won't be a second. And we're back. Gaurav Gutam asks, which blog site is better, WordPress or Blogger, and why?
I think WordPress is probably pretty fantastic. It publishes something like, I don't know what the percentage is these days, it's 20-odd% or something like that of the internet now is powered by WordPress, or some insane figure. And so, if you want to self-host it, that's a no-brainer pretty much. There's probably no easier blogging platform that's customizable to use other than WordPress. It's so simple. If you don't want to self-host it, you could use WordPress still and host it on wordpress.com with your own custom domain, which is nice because if you outgrow that in terms of its flexibility, you could easily migrate into a self-hosted version of WordPress with very little effort, so that's pretty sweet. Blogger, it's basically got the same kind of benefit, I suppose. You can host on, subdomain.blogspot.com. It's not as customizable, obviously, but if you don't need the customization, Blogspot's okay. You can also use it now with your own custom domain as well, which I would probably recommend if you were thinking about potentially moving to your own website in the future. The benefit of starting out on Blogger, if you were to use your own domain, is that when it does come time to migrate to a self-hosted version of WordPress, for instance, the migration process, since you're using your own domain as opposed to a subdomain of Blogger, is a lot easier. So,
yep. Okay. And I should add that Kartik has added comments regarding for earning. He would prefer Blogspot because you can directly apply for AdSense in Blogger, but not in WordPress. You need a custom domain to apply ads in a WordPress blog. Okay, so I think that covers it for Gaurav. Next question is from somebody who was with us a moment ago, Girish Kapoor. Should I keep using the brand name in title tags? He said, I did some work for a client the other day and outlined why I felt that he should have his brand name in his title tag. I did some competitor analysis of his market area to back this up and show him why some sites did one thing and some another. It got me thinking, though, about how often branding considerations in this area outweigh SEO considerations. For most sites nowadays, it's just the norm to have their brand name first in their title tag. So is this a losing battle for search experts who want to do something different?
Is it the norm to have the brand name first? I don't know if there's actually been a study on that part. I would say yes to keep the brand name in the title. I mean, you'll see even then that Google will reinsert that in the title visually in a search result if you don't. So, Google wants it. I think users want it. We're basically, you want to build up the branding and kind of get your brand out there. I think it's a lost opportunity if you don't have it. So I generally would say yes, always have that there. And in fact, make sure you probably want to have it at least, there as well for your meta description. So it's, you want to be kind of there and reminding people what site they're on. Because sometimes people forget. So, yeah, I think it's definitely that kind of opportunity should be there for that. I don't think it needs to be in the front for the title tag, but it's definitely branding plays a large part in how a lot of businesses can do very well. And you don't want to just only rely on Google in that regard. So being able to build your brand is very important. So I would always try to include it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it should be in your title tag. Whether it needs to be first or last, that's probably subjective based on the industry you're working in and the type of product you're selling. For instance, if you're a stockist or some sort of an FMCG or a manufacturer of an FMCG product that gets sold through retailers as well, you may want to have your brand name first in the title tag so that potential people searching in Google realize that yours is the official site for the product as opposed to buying it from maybe a Walmart or somewhere else. So in that scenario, putting it first might be advantageous if you want to try and pull in your well-recognized brand traffic into your own site, as opposed to putting it last, for instance, where maybe it gets isn't as visible in the search results. Maybe you've got some long title tags where it gets pushed outside of the view of the width that Google displays in the search results. On the flip side, if that's not kind of the scenario you're in, having it last in your title tag is nice because you can craft the first section of your title tag that's the most visible in the search results to be very enticing, and not waste potentially 2 or 3 words of that very limited amount of space on a brand name that ends up getting repeated potentially across dozens or hundreds or thousands of pages across your website. I would say just in general with this, the best thing to do would be to test it. If you're using a content management system, you could make the change one way or the other, site-wide. And then in Google Webmaster tools, they give you click-through rate data out of the search results to tell you how you're performing in terms of its click-through rate and clicks, obviously, referrals from Google and Google Analytics. But the click-through rate data in Webmaster tools might be a good indication whether or not putting it first or last is a good thing for your particular website. So test it.
Yeah, it's a good point there, Alistair. It's definitely you can feel free to test certain parts of the site for that with Google Webmaster tools having the click-through rate data. It's a good one to keep in mind.
Okay. All right. So summing up for Girish, brand name in title tags is a good thing. Yes. Yes, I hope so. Okay. So now we have another one from Girish, and that is how many of you have implemented revisit after meta tags, and have you experienced this tag to work? In my case, it's not working out as I thought. He's referring to the meta tag robots revisit after 7 days or whatever.
I've never used it before.
No. I see Ammon Johns was kind enough to post on our SEO Questions community, and he answered Girish. He mentioned that it was only ever used for throttling the robot. But the thing about revisit after, people would put that in revisit after 1 day. Well, good luck with that plan. The thing is that Googlebot will join, will index your site on its timetable, not yours. And so, in general terms, that the revisit after meta tag is really not useful at all. All right. And of course, Google specifically states in their guidelines that revisit after is not used by them or other major search engines.
No, that's right. I was going to say, if someone was looking to do something with revisit after, and it was to do with crawling specifically, there's a better way to handle that. Google support a crawl delay directive in robot subtext to kind of slow down Google a little.
Yeah, I mean, unless Googlebot is tanking your server, I think Googlebot visiting is like manna from heaven. having your fresh pages in the index. That's a wonderful thing, and I try not to restrict Googlebot in any way. I'm just waiting for Googlebot to start loving me again.
Yeah, I think in most instances, Jim, you're spot on. I mean, most sites don't have problems with Google crawling their site too hard in general. I think this becomes a problem on really big sites where you've got, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or say in Micah's case, tens of millions of pages of content. And Google's happy to crawl hard on domains that they feel it's appropriate to crawl hard on. So, in the case of Micah's site, they're happy to pound the doors down on his site looking for content because they feel it's appropriate given the strength and authority and reputation of Zazzle. So in that scenario, it's burning down serious resources of their servers just serving Googlebot. As a practical example, I've re-throttled Bing, as an example, at work just this week, and slowed them down even further from crawling our sites because they're hitting us too hard. So it is, depending on the type of site you've got, it can be quite resource intensive. Like for instance, for a content site, it's not a big deal. You can cache the hell out of that and move right along. For an e-commerce site, it gets a little trickier. Some of that you can cache, some of it you can't. For sites that do flights, for instance, where you need to go and connect to people like, Sabre, for instance, to get access to all of the flight inventory and route data, that's quite expensive and resource intensive. So having someone pound the doors down like that needlessly is, not ideal. So
yeah, one of the things I would add to that is as well. One of the things I've done in the past is I will take out Baidu and I'll take out Yandex, because if I'm working on something where we're not in those countries and we're not getting that, the traffic from those that generally bounce, they hammer your site just as hard sometimes as Bing. So just telling them get the heck out can save quite a bit of resources doing that. Like, sorry, but you're not viable.
Yeah. Last Sunday, somebody took it upon themselves to try and find WordPress sites with weak logins, and they were hitting the WP login page from zombie machines. They'd take hold of a machine and have that machine scroll through known WordPress sites, and they'd ask 60 times, like they'd open up 60 sessions and try to log into WP login. And this caused us a great deal of stress because it was the servers that we run WordPress sites on just didn't cope with it. So servers that normally run on about 100 meg of virtual memory were suddenly running with 3.4 gig and running so slowly that I thought they'd stopped. So we at the firewall introduced a rule to stop these drones from requesting more than 10 sessions, and if they requested 11, we'd drop that packet. But we managed to, because there's a large number of sites on these servers, we managed to block Google. And of course that caused a major panic. Blocking Googlebot. I found a new way to make a mistake. Anyway, here we are. The next question. It's an interesting question from Al Morris, and It's perplexing. Al is in Ireland, and he's a few k's short of the Northern Ireland border. Anyway, his question is, does anybody have any idea on how I can get more traffic across an international border? I'm not sure if this is where to ask a question. Does anybody have any idea how I can get more traffic across an international border? Northern Ireland is 15 minutes from my door, yet less than 5% of traffic is from there. I recently set up a new domain, .co.uk, and website to target this shortage. My Irish website, which is a .com domain, is geo-targeted to .ie, and the .co.uk is geo-targeted to the UK. I think .co.uk is automatically geo-targeted to the UK. I didn't think it was possible to geo-target it at all. Anyway, Al goes on to say, I tried writing content aimed specifically at Northern Ireland and aimed it at user search queries. I suspect that Google prefers their own their version of local rather than mine.
So I think the his approach is probably not bad in terms of having, a .com geo-targeted to IE and a .co.uk, which will, Jim was right, it's automatically geo-targeted to the UK for you. That's not a bad way to go about it. If there was some possibility that the content in his .com wasn't getting served to the right audience, he could apply hreflang to that content, or all of it in fact, to make sure that Google returns the content to the right audience. The other thing I suppose might be, are there any other languages that are relevant that you might want to carry content for? Like, is it Gaelic that's in around Ireland? Is that Gaelic?
No, it's English. It's English.
Sorry, you go ahead, David and Roseanne.
I was just going to say it's English. There's a little bit of Gaelic spoken, but not very much. So you're looking at two different flavours of English. I'm not sure about how effective hreflang is, because most of the GB type site visitors I get to my UK site with a .com have US English set, so I'm not even sure how much hreflang will work, but I'm quite willing to be told otherwise because I haven't had too much experience with it.
It certainly works. You might find, David, that if you were to check the location of your visitors, you might find that despite the fact that their browser locale is set as EN US, that their location is actually in the UK.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So in which case, as far as Google's concerned, they're doing their job, and as far as you're concerned, hreflang is probably doing its job too, because you're getting visitors from the geographic audience that you expect it to come from, and language, so English, Great Britain.
That's why I'm a bit confused about whether that will have any help here with EN-IE and EN-GB.
To be honest, it shouldn't make any difference, because so the .com is manually geo-targeted in Webmaster tools, so already done, and .co.uk is automatically geo-targeted because of the domain extension, so that's already done as well. But if there was some possibility that it was getting confused for some reason, unlikely, you could implement it hreflang. It's certainly not going to hurt, so long as it's implemented correctly. probably the bigger thing for Al to think about here is how should he promote his business into a new territory. Simply putting content up and expecting to get traffic for it is just not sufficient. So he'll need to set up his new website, so his co.uk, and now he needs to go about promoting it inside the geographic area where those users are, so that they'll find his site. So, you know, he wants to start link building for it, for instance, in the same way that he's probably naturally accrued links over time to his .com, and he ranks in Ireland as a result of that behaviour. He now needs to do the same sort of marketing tactics into the UK to establish his brand, and then in due course the traffic will come.
The thing I was thinking of was that, and I'm not sure of the answers here, I'm only asking the questions, but is Northern Ireland considered, I mean, if you use a .co.uk, does that automatically consider a territory like Northern Ireland as a natural .co.uk website's location? And if it does, why don't they also consider the Falklands, which are on the other side of the world near the near Argentina?
I'm not so sure Falklands is part of the UK. Northern Ireland definitely is part of the United Kingdom, but like Channel Islands, Isle of Man, these places are not part of the United Kingdom. I wonder if Isle of Man has its own domain name.
Well, look, if the Falklands aren't part of the United Kingdom, why did Maggie blow the Belgrano out of the water?
I think I'm not 100% sure whether Falklands is part of the UK. I think it's Crown dependency. It belongs to the Crown, but not part of the United Kingdom.
I sent a link that goes through all of that, the complications of the UK in the chat. Just definitely.
No, Falklands is certainly not part of the UK because they don't send members of Parliament in Westminster.
Okay.
What would we do with that, Taki? We'd be lost.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next, Al Morris. I hope that that's an answer for your question. If not, please feel free to ask it again on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Michael Tigulo asks, or says, my site was hit by a Google update, but I'm not sure if penguin or pigeon. Hi guys, I would like to ask about my site. It was hit by a Google update, but I'm not sure which one. But the last update was pigeon, because our site is local and the rankings fell 100 places. How can I solve my problems if my site was hit? Should I delete low-quality links and disavow the links if not possible to delete? Or if I don't have access to the site where the links are? How many months to recover? And are there any processes to solve this problem so that my site will recover? I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thanks. Pigeon. See, Barry Schwartz had his way. He convinced everybody that there's such an update called Pigeon. Good on him.
Yeah, I don't deal with the local that area, so I'm not the person that's on that. But if it's Penguin, so Penguin has still not been updated in we're running on 11 months now, so it's very likely you weren't dinged by Penguin. That should at least help you narrow it down on that side. So that's something to know. And then since I'm not very familiar with Pigeon, I can't really help you on that. I don't know if anybody else has more insight over there.
So the Pigeon update, so to speak, was Google theoretically dialing back some of the local signals for local and more closely aligning those rankings factors with organic. Whereas before they were reasonably separate. There was a reasonable overlap, but there was quite a bit of separate stuff inside local that they were acting on independently. Pigeon supposedly dials that back so that they're kind of more closely aligned with organic. In any case, Michael needs to determine what date he was hit, so that he can determine if there was an algorithm update that came out and what the algorithm was. If it was an algorithm update, then the question becomes, well, if it is Pigeon, what do I do when my site has fallen in rankings with Pigeon? Here be the research phase where you'll need to start reading through a whole bunch of different search blogs to find out, who the noteworthy people are that are speaking about local. Like the Mike Blumenthal's of the world, for instance, or Andrew Shotland, to understand what's changed in Pigeon and what sorts of things you need to be working for.
Thank you, Alistair. Anybody else to add to the answer for Michael? Okay. Michael, I hope you're happy with that. We've done it again, guys. We've reached the end of the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Well done. Thank you very much for that. Now we move to the SEO News community, and we discuss items of interest that have been found around the web. We post them on the SEO News community, and each week after the questions are finished, we discuss them. Our first news item is one was posted by Matt Rains, and it was titled, "Has anyone Googled Greg's this morning? How would you go about removing the logo? Is it an inside job?" What was happening there was that on a site called Wikia, somebody posted a copy of the Greg's logo, and instead of the slogan, "providing shit to scum for over 70 years." And then what followed was an interesting chat on Twitter between Greg's in the UK and google.co.uk, and they swapped some donuts and some sausage rolls and some pictures of the sausage roll crumbs left, and did resolve it. Anyway.
So, yeah, this is what happens when a company, Google, decides to take data from a single website that happens to be a Wikipedia, kind of a wiki site. You leave yourself open to having these issues crop up when you don't have a system in place that says, if of the sites we look at, if they do not match, don't pick and choose, or choose what the older version was before updating. Basically, the knowledge panel is rife with getting a lot of errors, and there's been tons of examples as of late of people kind of doing these types of things, and Google will pull it in because they don't have a quality checks. They don't have a check in place that is foolproof. So that's how something like this occurs. Basically, somebody goes to Wiki or Wikipedia, or I guess Freebase too, and updates the information. Google sees it, thinks because it's those sites are value, they pull it in. So that's what happens. And so if you're not monitoring your brand and your reputation and all that stuff on these sites that Google are pulling into the knowledge panel, this is what happens. So the flip side is, how do you go about removing it? Go to the sites that Google is pulling this information from and update that information. And that would quickly, well, I can't say quickly, but that would then eventually fix that problem.
Actually, because that site that it was on, which was Alice just found the link for us there, encyclopedia.wikia.com, because and it's on a publicly edited site. Greg's were removing the image, and people would then come along and put it back again. So they had a little bit of a tug of war for a while.
Yeah, this this is just one of the things where I'm just amazed that Google's not putting in a simple, to me, what I would consider simple, which is like, you have to have two sources of sites that at least that equals, and then it can update. Now that's assuming that this attack on this Greg's company wasn't being done on multiple sites, but I mean, the examples that we've stumbled across usually, and when people have talked about in the search sphere, are usually from just like somebody updated on Wikipedia and Google pulled it in, and it's like, should probably be using more than one site for that knowledge panel, and not just relying on one thing, because those things can get updated quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like rocket science to me. I mean, for a thing like a logo, I mean, a simple rule that they only publish a logo if it's mentioned in schema on the homepage of the domain that they're referring to.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, there's definitely that type of thing as well. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so if people complain, oh, my logo's not showing up, well, add the schema, and you'll get it. I mean, it should be like a lock and key. I mean, a logo is somebody's brand. Google should be protecting that. I mean, Google would shit bricks if somebody did it to them.
Yeah.
All right. Our next one is, gee, we're finishing early tonight, I can see. This one I posted, it was the results of a Moz poll regarding Google's recommendation for sites to move to HTTPS. They're encouraging it with a mention on the Google blog that SSL sites will benefit from a weak ranking signal. And this has promoted a mini stampede where 25% of the Moz blog readers plan to move their sites to HTTPS. Interested to know what you guys have to say. I think it's crazy. I mean, if the site is not making any money, why would you invest the money first of all in an IP to display it and the certificate? And it's not just doing it once; you've got to do it every year from now on. If you start it now, there'd have to be a business case for it.
The reason is because, like, think of like your blog, like what happened there that got hacked. It's the same view that you can get hacked regardless of the site. they want the whole web to be secure because that will, in their view, help to reduce the, well, let me rephrase. In their view, they think, from their data, they have such that links, or sites that are in HTTPS, people prefer, and then what they also prefer is that people switch because they feel that will help to reduce the likelihood of people getting hacked as they crawl across the web.
Micah, as you know, I get up each day and worship the ground that you walk on. I have the utmost respect for you, but I must say that I disagree. I don't think that having SSL on your site is going to help you from being hacked.
No, I'm not saying that I agree. I'm just saying that's what Google believes.
I don't think Google believes it either.
That's what they're already saying. How's that?
No, well, they're saying that having SSL on your site, you might benefit from we're rewarding SSL sites with a weak ranking signal.
Yes, but they're saying if you... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, all that an SSL certificate will do for you, it encrypts the traffic between you and the browser. It doesn't do anything to lock down your site or make it any more secure. All it does is stop, say, a man-in-the-middle attack from taking place. But
I call that a hack. Sorry, if I'm not using the right term. So.
Well, I think it does more than that, though, Jim. I mean, so SSL fundamentally provides three things, right? It provides authentication, that you're connecting to the thing that you think you are. That's the first thing. So, for instance, if the site's running SSL and the certificate is a mismatch, your browser is going to tell you straight off the cuff, the thing that you're connecting to is not what you think it is. It's been faked, right? Straight off the bat. That's a good thing. It provides encryption to make sure that man-in-the-middle attacks, for instance, can't be done because you can't see inside the data that's in transit. And then it provides, I don't know what you would call it, but consistency of data in a sense that you can make sure that the data that is in transit hasn't been tampered with. Also, so does that stop the actual infrastructure at the other end, you know, the web server itself being compromised? Absolutely not. Could a server serving SSL traffic still spread malware? Yep, you bet. But there's no question that sites that are properly configured with SSL provide clients a higher security, higher trusted connection than the same site without it. But it doesn't necessarily mean the server hasn't been compromised.
So if SSL becomes ubiquitous, will this lead to a general devaluing of the trust that people have in SSL?
Yeah, well, this is one of the things that I think people have probably not considered. You know, let's just say that in 2 years' time, 85% of the commercial websites online are running SSL, right? Historically, people that are transacting online have been trained through lots of marketing activities from lots of different businesses over the years that they should always look for the padlock when they're on websites to make sure that it's secure, trusted, that they should put their credit card details into it. By having every website, I shouldn't say every, but let's just say a large percentage of the highest trafficked, most commercial websites online running an SSL, I think it could provide a false sense of security that every website is secure and that I should be prepared to give my credit card details to them. And that's just simply not the case. That being said, is that Google's problem? No, it's not. Is it their job to police it? No, not their problem either. You know, I look at this as being no different than the education phase that the internet had to go through when e-commerce happened, where everyone needed to get educated that no, if there's no padlock, don't put your credit card details in because it's not secure. I think in due course what we'll find is things like the McAfee HackerSafe things, as an example, where they're doing site security probing, penetration testing, for instance. I think things like that are going to become the next step after more broad rollouts of things like SSL. That'll be the next step that customers will be looking for, to know that this, not only is a site running high-grade encryption, that it's actually hasn't been compromised, is secure, implemented correctly, you know, all those kinds of things.
Okay.
Let's do explain that
Anybody else?
quite a bit better.
What did I do wrong there? Did I miss something?
Oh, no, I was just saying Alistair explained that quite a bit better than I could. So.
No, you did explain it very well. It was only that hack word that I took exception to.
Yeah, I think I used that too liberally, that's all. So, yeah.
The other thing as well that I think people, I've mentioned this a few times to a few different people when we've been discussing the SSL thing in the last sort of fortnight, is that one of the benefits that everyone's going to get out of SSL, well, could get, should they choose to take the steps for it, is, you know, a much faster website. So historically, SSL has slowed websites down over, if you were to look historically over time. These days that's not the case, because, you know, modern CPUs are so much faster. The cost of encryption and decryption is negligible these days. But the important thing now is that with the advent of the Speedy protocol from Google, which is effectively the next generation of HTTP, which will soon to be ratified as HTTP 2.0, that protocol delivers at least 25% improvement in page load times with no changes to your website. It's a pure protocol. That's awesome. Awesome. You know, like shaving 25% off the load time for a site takes effort, like, you know, real effort from people to actually do a better job of making it load quicker. You could literally add SSL, make sure your web host supports Speedy, and for all Chrome and all Firefox users, and soon all Internet Explorer version 9, I think they're going to go back to, or 10, version 10 plus, will support Speedy, and so will Safari. So the 4 biggest browsers on the internet will shortly be supporting Speedy. Winner.
Mm-hmm. So now we've got another configuration we have to take account of.
Yep. The other thing that's been interesting on that front actually is there's a bloke at Google named Ilya Grigoric, who's a web performance engineer, evangelist type of a bloke. You should look him up on Google Plus because he posts some really fantastic content. He wrote a book recently about high-performance browser networking, which has got a whole world of good, awesome stuff in it for people looking to make their websites go a whole lot faster. But recently he published, has presented on specifically SSL, and the things that you need to be doing to make SSL as fast as it can actually go. Because there's actually, if you remove the decryption part of the piece out of why SSL used to slow websites down, there's other reasons at a protocol level why SSL can slow it down, because it's got additional trips between your browser and the server to do all of the SSL handshakes that need to take place to make sure everything's kosher and to set up the SSL connection. And he's got a whole bunch of videos and presentations on SlideShare, etc., that talk through some of the nuances and complexities of actually implementing SSL right, as opposed to just flopping an SSL certificate onto your site and pressing the go button, which invariably will lead to substantially worse performance than plain HTTP. So look him up. He's got some cracking content on this stuff. He's actually got a website called istlsfastjet.com.
Can we add that to our the news item on the SEO news community on Google+?
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Well, look, this is something that's never been seen before. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is going to see the end of a dumb SEO questions hangout.
It's happened once.
Okay. This is our last item for the night. And look, it was posted by Edwin Yonk, and it was originally posted by Alistair Lattimore and reposted by Edwin Yonk, I should say. But look, I'd like to read out Edwin Yonk's words and then throw it open for Alistair Lattimore to talk about Rand Fishkin's Whiteboard Friday. Edwin wrote, link echo proven, and this is probably a quote from the article. He said the effect of these link tests remaining in place long after the link had been removed happened in every single link test we ran, of which I counted 8 where I felt highly confident that there were no confounding variables. Feeling really good that we followed a process kind of just like this. The links pointed, the ranking rose, the links disappeared, the ranking stayed high. Alistair Lattimore argues that this might be the reason why Google updated the best practice for domain migration. He makes 2 points. 1, part of the role of the change of address tool is to stop inbound links to the original domain echoing and to expedite the equities shifting over to the new domain. And 2, Google have stated for a long time that once you've migrated to a new domain using 301 redirects, and the redirects have been stable and in place for a few months, there is no requirement for the old domain to stay online. I'll ask you guys to carry on from there.
So the first part of that was mostly about the so migrating from one domain to another, Google's been pretty consistent with their recommendations on this over a really long period of time. It's always been implement 301 redirects page to page. Google will process them, and happy days. You know, implement them properly, and we'll do our job, and everything will be okay. And over, the last 10 years, I've had pretty much 0 problems with following that guidance. It's just worked with, good success every time. But more recently, they've added in another step, which is you should notify us using the change of address tool in Webmaster tools when you're migrating from one domain to another, and implement the 301 redirects. And the point there from Google was that it was to, proactively or actively tell Google that you're changing domains and to make the migration process smoother. Now, they've never had that recommendation in the past, so something's obviously changed that they want to do a better job of. And it was just an interesting thing I was thinking of after watching Rand's Whiteboard Friday, because, if you can take a link down and it still echoes to the original page, then during a migration process, you're effectively taking links down from one point and pointing them somewhere else. it seems reasonable that they could continue to echo to the old location or the original location. So maybe that's part of what the change of address tool might do, for instance. If any of this is even real, I mean, this is us looking into Google from outside, right? And then the same sort of thing with the second point was, after you've migrated, you could theoretically take your old domain down entirely offline, and the rankings of your new domain would be unaffected. You could sell your old domain, for instance, lose access to it entirely, and your rankings of your new domain would be unaffected by that as well. And it was really just an extension of the first thought that maybe this is part of that process in some way. Or it could simply be that Google genuinely updates the link graph from the link pointing to page A to literally updating their graph pointing to page B over time. And there's no echoing. It just gets updated. I think that's probably more likely. I mean, when you think about what a 301 redirect does in terms of its intention, the HTTP protocol says its definition is this document has been permanently moved to a new location. Anything that's been referring to the old location should be permanently updated to reference the new location, like browser bookmarks or anything like that. So maybe it's not connected, but it was just a fleeting thought, so I jotted it down in a comment.
Yeah, what's interesting is what I get a little worried when I see something like this with a link echo is it seems like this could be, if not protected properly, which I'm not sure how they would do it offhand, but this seems like this could easily create potential for spam. And imagine basically slamming a number of links, wait until making sure Google's crawled those pages, taking them down, and then rinse and repeat, so that technically you're not going to get dinged by Penguin, you're not going to get dinged in the manual way because you've only had that for like a day or two, and you're getting them, and you're taking them down. I get worried about something like that. If it's that simple of kind of having these type of echoes as a function. So, I mean, I'm sure if they did, they probably would try to bake something in, but it just seems like something like that would be fairly problematic to have. It would, yeah, that's what goes through my head when I see something like that.
Interesting. Anyway, I mean, one thing that if this is really real, it would be all of the rented link networks that exist, for instance. It would be interesting to run some tests, for instance, where you go and rent some links from some decent quality sites, and then the links get taken down, and then go to a different, where the people that you're renting the links from are good quality, like it's not sort of Penguin fodder necessarily. Take them down, go to somewhere else, rent some more links for a period, a month maybe. I take them down, go and rent them from somewhere else, and see what the hell happens. Because if, I suppose the thing is here, you could, it would be interesting to find out what might happen long term. Obviously if you rented crappy links, Google has to see the link for you to get the benefit, which means they know that the link existed at some point.
Yep.
Then they take it down. At some point, algorithms like Penguin would run, or will run. The thinking there might be, would Penguin analyze all historical links to a domain, for instance, or do they only process active links to a domain? And then
it should be active because, like, the point of whenever you're doing a disavow is the removal of the links is what they're
that's right.
to.
So if that's the point, then why does what's the point of the echo?
Yeah.
Like, under what circumstances do links echo? There has to be some sort of a trust or confidence signal from Google that after a link's been in place for a period of time and they feel that the link is organic and it should really exist and it was a very strong trusted signal for a long time, that they're prepared to allow that link to echo. Other links that might be less permanent or less trustworthy or less relevant, maybe those sorts of links don't echo, as an example. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also like it gets difficult too in a lot of ways because you may have had those links and then now because you're ranking higher from those links, you start getting a lot of other links, or the traffic that you're generating suggests to Google that you should have been up higher than you were, and some of those links disappear. Is it are other factors now adding to why you're ranking? And while the original link that got you up there was the starting point, there's the removal of it is not that there's a link echo, it's just other factors now help to keep you in that position in lieu of the removal of that link. So there's also that becomes problematic just to say could be a link echo, with outside the exception of kind of what you're noting with like a redirecting and migrating to a new domain in kind of a broader sense. That's also other things to kind of note because kind of like tons of traffic are going to your site and Google sees that and will start to show you up for certain terms. Once the traffic disappears and kind of those temporary factors play a part, you kind of dwindle down. But if you're then garnering a lot of links outside of that, and then you're actually going to stay up. And so it's an interesting idea. I just think it's tough to say it's only due to kind of a link echo. It's a nice theory, but I think there's lots of potentialities that go a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So have we covered link echoes? Link ghosts?
Yep.
I guess so. All right, well, look, a couple of announcements to make. Next week, I'm very excited to announce that we're having 2 Hangouts next week. We're having episode 99, which will start 10 p.m. Australian time. It will run only for 90 minutes, so that if we have only as many questions as this week, we should fit it in. But if we don't answer them all, we'll come back again later in the week and do them, because at 11:30 p.m. Australian time, we're then breaking for our 100th episode. We'll go into green room for the first 30 minutes, and then we'll start with, I think, a real treat. I've invited some heroes of mine. AJ Cohn has agreed to join us. Stefan Hamel is speaking with us. He's a Canadian. He's an analytics specialist, and he's actually speaking on this subject in Stockholm at the time, although he is a Canadian. David Amerland, another hero of mine, and of course my other analytics heroes, Micah Fisher-Kirshner and Alistair Lattimore will be there. Hopefully Micah will be able to reorganise his schedule to be with us, but I'm just so looking forward to the conversations that we're going to have on this night on web analytics. So we may have a slightly different format because and if anybody can help me with this, I'll take any help on board. But I was acting on the assumption that by having a Google Apps account, that we could have a hangout with 15 people. However, even though I paid I think it's $50 or something, or $60, or it might be $120. I'm not over sure. But we paid for the Google Apps account. But now I find, after reading the documentation, that we may not be able to have 15. And of course, having a hangout on air with our special guests, but leaving out the people that support Dumb SEO Questions week after week would be untenable for me. So I'm looking at other plans, and so it's a possibility that for our 100th episode we may use a Microsoft product called Link, which allows us to have 15 people, which is, a little bit sad, because the thing is that without the provision of Google Hangouts on air, there wouldn't be a Dumb SEO Questions. And so it's sad that, and if anyone can show me how to have 15 people in a hangout using Hangouts on air, obviously that's the one we'll use. But it seems to me that we'll be using Link, and in the gallery view on Link we can have 5 presenters who will be our special guests, of course, and our analytics experts. And the other 10 of us can join. Our pictures won't actually show on the screen, but our voices will. Our voices will carry through, and also we have a chat function down the side, which operates very similar to the chat function here on the Hangout. So that's a plea for help. If anyone can tell me. I don't know if Ronnie does know. I did some searching on Google Plus, and I think I'm not sure that Ronnie is aware of that issue. Rob Mars. I'm just reading that from the chat. But I'll certainly keep investigating it. And but just so you know, I've been practicing with Link. In the meantime, so that I know that we have a backstop, because I would like to keep going with Hangouts, particularly for such a special episode as our 100th. Yes, thank you for the link, Alistair. But I have joined Google Apps via shopsafe.com. Oh, by the way, guys, I will be sending out a link. I never asked for a follow back, but I need you to follow me back so that I can send you an invitation from Jim at shopsafe.com, which is not my normal Google Plus profile. It's another one. It's for Google Apps. So when I send it out, don't think I'm just hitting you up for followers. It's needed for the 100th episode. If we can use Hangouts on air. Yeah. Sorry, Alistair. What have you read in Google's supports? Muted.
Sorry. It just says that.
What have you read?
What the help link I provided, it's just using Hangouts for video calls, and it just mentions that you can do 15 participants, and that it's open to business, governments, and education editions. So it seems maybe that does having a Google Apps account implicitly imply business, government, or education, or can you sort of have a Google Apps account, upgraded, or have a tick box set somewhere by Google that turns on business, government, or education style functionality? Don't know.
Well, that's an issue that we're working through, but as I understand it, that is true for Hangouts, but not for Hangouts on air. That's the difference. I think Google sees the two as two separate entities, and the other issue is using Google Apps. I signed up ShopSafe as the Google Apps business, and then the shopsafe.com site. When I open a Hangout, on the bottom left of the screen, there's a small icon that says this Hangout can only be viewed by members of the shopsafe.com domain, and so I think that's an issue. And it may also mean that I have to join you up to the shopsafe.com domain for then, and at $10 a month, I probably won't do that for 15 people. When as a Microsoft partner, I've got 100 licenses for Link that I can. Well, not me, but the company that I'm associated with. So it could be that unless we can resolve the issues, it'll be Link that we're using for our 100th episode.
Okay. Where on the Hangouts documentation, Hangouts on Air documentation, does it say that you can do 15? I'm on a common Hangout on Air common questions page, which I just dropped a link for, and it says how many people can join. A Hangout on Air can have up to 10 people at once. I just scanned down the page and I didn't see anything about Google Apps users getting more slots for Hangouts on Air, on that page at least. So where does it say that, Jim?
It definitely. Well, did you not mention before that for Google business, government, and education, you can use up to 15?
But that was for Hangouts, and you said Google differentiates between Hangouts and Hangouts on Air.
That's right, and that's where I fell down. I assumed that the documentation, when we're talking about Hangouts, they were talking about Hangouts on Air, but they're not, apparently.
Okay, so apps users, so it was a confusion on your part. It's not like it's meant to work and it's not working. It may be that it's not actually meant to work necessarily.
That's it, yeah. It's just, I found yet another way to look stupid.
But you do it so gracefully, so that's okay.
Yeah. Master Taki, did you say you'll follow it up for us? That'd be wonderful if you could, mate. All right. Well, look, if you're still watching, and we do have you heading off, are you, Alistair?
Yeah, I might hit the road. It's midnight, and need to be up and raring in 6 hours.
We were just about to go to green room. We were going to talk dirty to you.
Oh, well, in that case.
All right. So if you're still watching, I see we still have 4 viewers left. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that you would take the trouble to watch what we do, and your interest is what makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back same time next week to do it over again. Thank you very much.